the drama surrounding Jake Paul's name has never needed much fuel. For years, controversy has followed him like a shadow, growing louder with every call-out, every viral clip, every moment designed to keep the spotlight fixed squarely on him. But this time, the headlines didn't come from a press conference, a tweet, or a carefully staged confrontation. They came from Dorado, Puerto Rico, and they came with a chilling weight that even Jake Paul's most hardened critics couldn't ignore. When news first broke of a serious car crash involving Jake Paul, the reaction was instant and explosive. Social media lit up with confusion, disbelief, and speculation. Rumors flew faster than facts, with some reports exaggerating the severity, others hinting at tragedy, and many trying to connect dots that simply didn't belong together. In an era where misinformation spreads in seconds, the truth struggled to keep pace with the narrative people wanted to believe. What was clear, though, was that this was not a minor incident, and it was not something that could be laughed off as another reckless stunt. According to early reports, Jake somehow managed to escape with only cuts and bruises. Minor injuries, on paper, but anyone with a sense of reality understands how deceptive those words can be. Minor is often just another way of saying lucky. And luck, as this story makes painfully clear, has a habit of running out when it's leaned on too heavily. The timing of the crash made everything feel eerily surreal. Jake Paul had been in full provocation mode, relentlessly calling out Anthony Joshua, pushing narratives, creating chaos, and daring the boxing world to take him seriously as a threat to one of the sport's most disciplined heavyweights. Every appearance, every interview, every online post was soaked in bravado. He wasn't just chasing a fight, he was chasing validation, attention, and legitimacy in a world that has never fully accepted him. Then, suddenly, the noise stopped. In Dorado, Puerto Rico, the cameras weren't rolling, and there were no promoters spinning the story. There was just twisted metal, flashing lights, and the sobering realization that life doesn't care how many followers you have. For many fans, the incident felt like karma arriving unannounced. Not out of malice, but inevitability. Not as punishment, but as consequence. This idea of consequence became the central theme of the conversation almost immediately. Commentators, fighters, and fans began drawing a sharp contrast between Jake Paul's lifestyle and the disciplined path walked by Anthony Joshua. While Jake was bouncing between headlines, chasing clout, and stirring controversy, Joshua remained locked into his routine, focused on training, preparation, and longevity. The difference wasn't just about boxing. It was about how each man approached life itself. Joe Rogan's words echoed across platforms, cutting through the noise with uncomfortable clarity. He didn't frame karma as some mystical force waiting to strike, but as something internal, something psychological. Act with bad intentions long enough, he suggested, and your existence becomes poisoned by it. You carry bad energy, bad thoughts, and eventually, you find yourself constantly running into bad situations. Not because the universe hates you, but because recklessness has a way of narrowing your margins for error until there are none left. For Jake Paul, those margins had become dangerously thin. The emotional weight of the situation was driven home when Logan Paul was seen visibly shaken, fighting back tears as he addressed the accident involving his brother. This wasn't performative emotion. This wasn't content. This was raw fear, the kind that only surfaces when someone realizes just how close they came to losing family. In that moment, the bravado that usually surrounds the Paul name evaporated, replaced by something far more human and far more real. Suddenly, the conversation shifted. This wasn't about boxing beef anymore. It wasn't about Anthony Joshua, trash talk, or hypothetical fights. It was about life, and how quickly it can spiral out of control when recklessness becomes routine. Veteran voices in the sport, including Johnny Nelson, stepped in to remind everyone that this wasn't entertainment. This was someone's son, someone's brother, someone who could have easily not walked away at all. And yet, even in the midst of that sobering reality, the contrast with Anthony Joshua only grew sharper. Joshua's career has been defined not just by power and athleticism, but by structure. He is methodical, intentional, almost boring by modern standards. He doesn't chase headlines. He lets them come to him. His lifestyle reflects that same philosophy. Careful decisions, controlled environments, respect for the dangers that come with being a professional fighter and a public figure. There's a reason Joshua has remained at the top for so long, and it has very little to do with luck. As reports continued to circulate, some tried, almost desperately, to link Jake Paul's accident back to Anthony Joshua, as if the rivalry itself had somehow manifested this outcome. But the facts refused to cooperate with that narrative. There was no connection beyond contrast. This wasn't about Joshua doing something right to someone else. It was about Jake Paul doing something wrong and finally being forced to confront the consequences. The accident exposed something that critics have long argued about Jake Paul, that his recklessness outside the ring mirrors his approach inside it. Former opponents and fighters like Tommy Fury didn't mince words, pointing out that Jake's platform has always been built on YouTube fame rather than boxing fundamentals. The crash didn't create that perception, but it amplified it. Fame without discipline, confidence without foundation, risk without respect. Stories resurfaced about Jake struggling in sparring, dropping to a knee not as strategy but as survival. Accounts of him begging during tough moments in the ring painted a picture of someone who talks like a warrior but hasn't truly lived the life of one. In contrast, Joshua's journey has been one of sacrifice, self-reflection, and maturity. He has spoken openly about pulling back from distractions, reassessing his priorities, and choosing boxing and family over chaos. That difference matters. Eddie Hearn's reaction carried genuine concern, not mockery. He emphasized how serious the situation was, reminding everyone that outside the ring, there are no referees to step in when things go wrong. No 8 counts, no bells, no You make one bad decision, and the consequences can be permanent. Money can't undo it. Fame can't soften it. Apologies can't reverse it. As more reliable information emerged, it became clear that Jake Paul had been extraordinarily lucky. No major life-threatening injuries, no career-ending damage, at least physically. But luck is a dangerous teacher. It convinces you that you can get away with things until the day you can't. And for Jake, this moment may be the loudest warning he's ever received. Anthony Joshua's reflections on his own life choices stand in stark opposition to everything that led Jake Paul to that crash. Joshua has talked about recognizing when his personal life was drifting off course, about making conscious sacrifices, about returning home, recalibrating, and recommitting to what truly matters. That level of self-awareness doesn't come from hype. It comes from experience, humility, and respect for the stakes involved. For fans watching this unfold, the lesson is impossible to ignore. Boxing isn't just about punching power or viral moments. It's about responsibility, discipline, understanding that your career and your life are fragile things, easily destroyed by a single reckless decision. Anthony Joshua embodies that understanding. Jake Paul, until now, has seemed determined to test its limits. As Jake recovers, likely replaying the events in his mind, the boxing world continues to move forward. Joshua remains focused, untouched, preparing for the next chapter of his legacy. The gap between them, once framed as a potential spectacle, now looks wider than ever, not just in skill, but in mindset, maturity, and respect for life itself. This incident doesn't answer every question about Jake Paul's future, but it raises some unavoidable ones. Can he truly change? Can he step away from chaos long enough to build something real? Or will this moment fade into just another headline, another brush with disaster that reinforces bad habits instead of breaking them? Now it's your turn. Do you think this crash will finally force Jake Paul to rethink his lifestyle and approach to boxing? Or is this just another warning he'll eventually ignore? And if Jake Paul ever did step into the ring with a real